right, let's come into a comfortable seat. I'm just shaking out my hands a little bit, wiggling my shoulders. What do you need to do? Make some faces, fix your hair. I feel like I just need a little razor to take it all off. The sun's coming out and now all of a sudden you can see dust everywhere. It's incredible. I know why we spring clean. And I feel a little bit the same in my own body, like creaks and crannies that haven't been worked on. Bring your hands to heart center. Bring your thumbs to your breastbone. Let your elbows be heavy. Close your eyes, and with your eyes closed, notice the quality of light. Let your shoulders soften down. Your breath naturally deepens. You might want to dedicate your class to someone or to the earth. And let's sound 3 ohms. Empty your breath. Take a deep inhale. Let your hands relax to your knees and start to circle your head nice and slowly. Maybe even pausing in those places where there's a little extra tenderness or sensation. Letting your skull feel heavy. And then change directions. Noticing maybe that it's easier to go one way in a relaxed manner than the other. And then when you come back to the completion of a circle, lift your head and you can open your eyes if you want and just drop your right ear to your right shoulder. Take your left hand around behind you, starting with our little gargoyle pose. Look up to the ceiling, take a full inhale. With your exhale, reach your tongue down towards your knee. Let your chin circle to the inside of your right shoulder and pull the back of your skull. And then release. Come back up to center. Drop your left ear to your left shoulder. Take your hand around behind your head. Lightly pull at the edge of your eye, up and back. Inhale, look up. Exhale, reach with your tongue to the floor. And a little drama, and a little gargoyle noise. Noise. Bring your chin towards your inner shoulder, tugging at the back of your skull. Feel how it goes, sensation down to the top of your back, maybe even. And then release your head back to center. Now start to pull your shoulders forward, lift them up, and then pull them back, making some little shoulder circles here. So you're really just trying to take the whole rotation with your shoulders moving as much as they can, and then reverse the circles. Beautiful. And then shake it out a little bit. Let your arms waggle, waggle, wiggle. And then take a couple of Sufi circles. Feel how that naturally kind of massages your intestines. And then reverse the directions of your Sufi circles. Would that be ifus? Ifus. That's Sufi backwards. Yeah. And then when you've gone a couple of times, just come to an upright position and stretch both of your legs straight out. Ta-da! And lift up your chest, and with your exhale, twist to your left and then twist to your right. Maybe a couple more, it feels like it'd be right to do a little bit more twists here. So we're kind of Sufi circling, but we did different things with our legs. And then the next time you twist over your right thigh, start to soften into the yin pose here. Let your head drop, let your elbows be heavy. Start to re-deepen your breath. Let your tongue soften. You can be armed with information. You know you're not going to stay there 5 minutes. More like 2.5, 3 minutes. You can take a couple of breaths and notice the tone of your day or the theme of your day, how it's been so far. And then maybe start to notice if you have a wish for the rest of your day, a flavor, a hope that you hope will fill the time, or the feeling of the time. Notice if you're holding yourself back. Is your tongue relaxed? Is your jaw relaxed? And then start to inhale. Walk your hands back towards your center line and start by slowly twisting and then maybe getting a little bit more speed. Taking it a couple of times, or exactly the same amount of times you did on the other side. And then roll over your left thigh, sinking down to the other side of this pose. So notice if you have to think about the same things when you're setting up. Letting your elbows soften, letting your tongue relax, your toes relax. Keeping your head soft and hanging down. Your hands relaxed. softening down further or just relaxing with some area that you forgot to pay attention to. And then start to roll up. And you can do a little twist to just kind of reset your spine. And different than maybe you're anticipating, you're going to bring your right knee in front of you and your left, your right foot in front of you, your left foot behind you, setting up for deer pose. Lift up your chest. And then start by softly turning to your right. Lift up your chest one more time. And then next time you turn to your right, you can let your left buttocks lift. And we can soften down over beyond the right thigh, dropping to your elbows, letting your head hang. So we've just twisted to the right and then softened into the deer pose, letting the left hip lift up. Whether in the winter, in the fall, you can see it very well, both in the winter and the fall. I mean, even all year round. But when deers go to make their bed or sleep, they turn around in a circle. So you'll have like deep snow, and then you'll have this like wonderful kind of egg shape where a deer has slept. Or that can happen in the moss too. Notice how it takes a couple of, sometimes even minutes, to come into the softness of the pose, to let your body kind of give. It's the last day of the month, and it's the last day of the month. So tomorrow there's a full moon, or it's tomorrow or on Thursday, depending on where you are, I believe. Yes. So it's on Thursday technically for us in Europe, but Wednesday in the United States. And while it is going to be a full moon in Libra, the moon is still in Virgo. And we have Venus who's entered into Taurus. So finally we have some earth in a very fiery and watery time that we've had for the past couple of weeks. Of course, the moon goes through earth signs quite frequently. But the moon transits are often fleeting. And I think in a woman's body, it's more, if her cycle is very equal and steady and matched to the moon, maybe there's a deeper experience of it. But for all of us, the moon transits past quite quickly. But Venus is going to linger a little bit longer in Taurus than the moon. And then start to lift up and just do the counter twist for a couple of breaths in a yang style. And then rewind to center and stretch your left leg back and set up first for swan. So you actually, I find I have to walk my hands back towards my hips so I can hold my arms extended. I feel this very much, you can see the swan behind me here. A feeling of like the chest opening up. The length in the front of your body. Giving more space for the heart area. And then start to walk your arms forward, coming into sleeping swan. It's a really, I was going to say funny, but it's not really so funny. You know, we've moved so far away from experiencing nature in her rhythms and kind of flux and flow. And that's readily apparent. You know, if you live in a city, it's very different than living out in the woods. You know, how much bird song you hear or animals you meet. But the place we also don't notice that we've lost connection to is also above us, to the rhythms of the planets. With the buzz of electricity around us all the time, with the effect of, you know, 3G, 4G, 5G. Soon, stay tuned for the coming 6G. There's a lot more competing for that level of experience. And I wonder what is possible to do to mitigate it. You know, as I personally can't do something directly about all the satellites in the sky above my house or above all of our houses. What is it that I can work on and apply within myself to honor this connection we have to the cosmos? And I think that I mean, I can be completely wrong, but I think there is a way. There kind of has to be. And the only plausible way is through our internal practices, through our internal perception. I feel a little bit like the same way I did as a kid when I thought about like, you know, how do we use our mental energy to bend a spoon? But easier than that, start to walk your hands back towards your knee. Lift up your chest. Roll onto your seat and then keep going. So you're going to let your right foot lift up. You're going to grab onto your right ankle with your left hand, and then you're going to reach for your left toes. Now, even if you don't reach the toes, it's fine. Notice how holding onto your ankle actually helps you relax into the pose, even if you're not holding onto anything here. Totally like nap-worthy pose. I'm going to feel the stretch in the intercostal ribs, your spine, your left hamstring, a yin skandasana. And then inhale up. Stretch both your legs out, and the moment you've been waiting for, come down the center. So maybe you can get your elbows on the ground, maybe you can't. It might be a nice place for a pillow. You might just have to recenter on your mat. Maybe you can hold your head. Now, what I find terribly exciting is one of the experiences of growing older that I hope you share as well is an experience of confirmation, where I feel like there are certain wild ideas I had, whether it was directly in response to reading something, or out of a dream, or out of just an imaginative moment. And where later in studying esoterica and cosmology, I've come to find some of these things are actually true. Now, I don't think it just is because that's the area I'm studying in, but I think this is part of our inner capacities. That if we can engage internally in our creative work within the world, whether that is literally making art, or the creating a business, or creating new relationships, that if we actively can engage, that somehow there's a knowingness and awareness and intelligence that is confirmed throughout your biography. That there is an internal capacity to engage with the time spirits. That we can actually be of our age, even if we're not directly given a roadmap and a how-to, what you're supposed to do, set of guidelines. And then start to walk your hands back towards your hips. And we are going to bring the left knee, sorry, that's still not your knee, that's your left foot, at least I'm consistent, in front of you and your right foot behind you. So setting up for the other side of deer pose. And first let's start with a little more soft luau-y. Or maybe you're a little bit more elbows high, ska girl. Probably could figure out some eurythmia-ish touch to it. Wiggle your fingers for this weed effect. And then next time that you twist over your left knee, lift up your chest, take an inhale here, and then with your exhale, soften down, letting your right hip lift up, coming down to your elbows, letting your head hang. So I think actually quite often about this phenomena in the 60s, where yes, there was TV, yes, there was radio, but people weren't plugged into the internet in the same way. Obviously not, because it didn't exist then, but they weren't so engaged with the media in the same way that we are now. It was a different thing. And that in different areas there was this impulse for freedom and love. There was this impulse to all of a sudden, out of individuals' biography, to not pursue the path of their fathers and their grandfathers and their great-grandfathers, and all of a sudden really change kind of what was normal, what was the tradition, and pursue something that their individuality was calling for. There was this outward expression of letting the hair grow, of the clothes changing the way they did. And while, of course, some of that was in response to magazines and the popular kids and the popular articles and the popular TV shows, that it comes actually from an inner experience, an inner drive for change, an inner drive to creativity. You know, when Caroline Myss teaches, she often teaches about how we have the same systems for the forces of good as we do for the forces of evil. And we can argue that part of why that's true is because we are the next hierarchy of love and freedom. And so if we don't have free will, there's no development spiritually. And so just as there's hierarchies above us, there are lower keys below us of the maleficent forces that want something different for the human being than the divine forces do. And start to walk your hands back towards your hips. Do a little counter twist towards your right thigh. Take a nice full inhale and an exhale. And then turn back towards your left knee. Slide it to the side and start to set up first for swan and then for sleeping swan. In our own biographies, we might even be able to see this working of inspiration as well as illusion or delusions, that we can listen to an addiction or craving or a dark force, or we can actually be inspired to act from some divine inspiration, some inner drive that's connected to love. And that you know, this is why there are inroads for these despicable beings, because it's essential that we have the freedom so that we get to choose. Start to walk your hands away from your knee, coming down now into sleeping swan. And at least for myself, I can say that most of the choices that I made that were the most dark choices, often, especially when I was younger, there was a certain naivete around them, or an unknowing, disbelief of such dark forces. That my ignorance didn't keep me from those dark experiences. And partly due to those dark experiences, it developed a capacity to be more discerning and understanding of how these forces in the world work. And so we can also see that there is this gathering of dark force. There are horrors being laid out for us in bright daylight that we shouldn't know, or it's not that we shouldn't know them. It's a violence to carry them with us, but it's also a responsibility to know that this is part of the whole, part of our whole culture, our world, that we are a part of. But that if there is such grotesque things that are coming to light, and if there are such incredible monopoly of the you know, the skies with the satellites and the 1G, 4G, 6G, whatever, that there also must be an equal capacity to meet the divine in different ways than before. That there are forces of good that are available if we just have capacity to find them within ourselves and within our society. To continue, Caroline Myss also is really good about saying, and part of the problem is the dark and the evil can be so flashy and pretty and brilliant. And the good is often a little slower, a little bit more gentle, a little softer. And then start to walk your hands back towards your left knee, stretching up. And then coming onto your seat, letting your left foot come to the ground, grabbing onto your left ankle with your right hand, and then stretching and reaching your left hand to your right toes. Ta-ding! And just like on the other side, we're not going to stay there for 10 minutes. See if you can deepen your breath a couple of times. So partly because it's so big and so flashy and so bright and so horrible and dramatic, we can see the power of darkness. And it's easy to let that put us in despair. And then start to lift up. And we are going to roll onto our belly and come into a lovely little sphinx. And it's challenging in that kind of phase to do the small, significant steps in our mundane and quiet lives. But that really is part of our resistance, is being able to wake up in the morning and sit and meditate. To be able to close your eyes and open your heart and pray. To talk about how the angels are related to us. To talk about freedom and love. In our much more ordinary sized lives from our perspective. But this is the cool, like, little trick, isn't it? Because even in our ordinary little lives, we have the extraordinary capacity to be there for other human beings, to inspire them in ways that are beyond our plan. Even beyond our intention. We know how detrimental lies can be, but we forget how exactly the opposite truth and love can be. What kind of ripples does your goodness cause? Now, if you'd like, for the next minute-ish, you can extend your arms, coming into seal. It's at this perfect level. If I'm in seal, then I can actually see the sun out my window that's slowly sinking. The way the angels can work on earth has a lot to do with us, with human beings. And with our joy and creativity, our expressions of love, devotion, these are part of the things that actually are nourishment to the hierarchies above us. And then slowly start to lower down to the ground. Bring your forehead onto your forearms. Wiggle your hips side to side. And then tuck your toes. Push up into a plank. That's all the action we're doing. And then walk your knees forward. Cross your ankles to come on your back. And of course, you can skip the plank. Lower yourself down onto your back. And we're going to come into happy baby. So we've done a little bit of twists in our deer poses. You can rock a little side to side if you want. You can also shorten your happy baby pose and turn it into a longer twist if that feels like it suits your body better for your practice. One of the bold challenges of our future, I think, is also this diversity in like this multiplicity in that each one of us is different. We need different medicines. We're complemented by different things. And then let's hug in our knees and just do a quickie twist, a spinal twist. So hug your knees in and then maybe slide your hips to the right and drop your knees to the left, making sure your knees are lined up above your hips. Look away from whichever way your knees are turning. Maybe sigh it out. And then come back to center. Hug your knees in. Maybe slide your hips to the left and take your knees to the right. Making sure they're up high enough so you feel the twist in your spine. Take another full inhale. With your exhale, just sigh it out. And then come back to center and stretch your legs long, ready for Shavasana. Maybe you still want a blanket. Maybe it's warm enough that you don't need one. Close your eyes and come into that internal space and listen. With your next inhale, invite your breath to the edges of your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes and smile. Just notice how you feel about, well, everything right this moment compared to how when you started your practice today. And stretch your arms up over your head. Wiggle yourself long on your inhale. On your exhale, curl into a ball and roll over onto your right hand side. And then help yourself up into a comfortable seated position. And allow your hands to meet at heart center. Let your shoulders soften, your elbows be heavy. Maybe think of the person you dedicated your class to. Empty your breath for one final Om. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. And so much love.